Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chair. My questions go to the awarding of the French Legion of Honour and the efforts to award the French Legion of Honour to veterans who served in D-Day operations and the liberation of France as part of the Operation Overlord. And we might recall that, I think at the time of the British Prime Minister's visit, this issue drew a lot of attention. And I was just wondering if you can give me an update in regards to the Department's activities in ensuring that Australians who are eligible or who think they might be eligible are getting the necessary documentation and that the French are being made aware of their existence.
General Dave Chalmers, First Assistant Secretary, Commemorations and War Graves. Senator, clearly it's a French award and it's up to the French to determine whom they award it to, but they have been very generous in their recognition of our veterans, and the Department is working closely with the French Embassy in ensuring that veterans that they want to honour are being honoured. In fact, only this morning I travelled down to Melbourne to the French Consulate in Melbourne, where 4 of our World War II Bomber Command veterans were so honoured, the French Ambassador and the visiting French Chief of Air Force. Both were at a ceremony where they'd asked me to be the Master of Ceremonies, and they honoured, as I say, 4 of our veterans with the Legion of Honour. So, as you're aware, this is a very, very high French award, and the French have been working through those veterans who served in the liberation of France, and there's a process now of ensuring that all such veterans are honoured.
Do we have any sense of the time frame that it takes for a veteran to notify the French Embassy and then for a decision to have been taken and then the award to be given? I'm familiar with the award ceremony that coincided with the Albany commemorative events at the end of October, early November, where the Minister was present. Is there a sense of the timeline that it takes for an application to be processed and for a recipient to be notified?
Senator, it is a French process,
yes.
and clearly because it is an award of such significance, it does take some time because the level of authorisation is very high. The President of the Republic, in the end, is a delegate, I guess you'd say. But having said that, the French are very keen to ensure that, I think because they understand that the veterans they're honouring are for the most part in their 90s, that time is of the essence. This is not an award that can be made posthumously, so when a veteran is to be honoured, they need to work through the process fairly quickly, and they do so.
That's a very important point because, of course, the veterans are very, aged now, and certainly those that I've met in the Great Southern, people like Doug Groom and Eddie Davis, for example, are well and truly into the 90s, very fit and sprightly. I'll add that. But in correspondence, that I've received from yourselves dated the 12th of January in response to a letter that I sent to the Department identifying 12 to 16 veterans or their families that had made their presence known to me as a result of some media activity. A commitment was given to me that the Department will notify each of the veterans or their family member who inquired about eligibility on behalf of a veteran. Was that undertaken?
Senator, I'm not aware, so I'd have to take that on notice for you.
In that same letter dated the 12th of January, there was a commitment that the nomination process established by the French would be discussed so that Australian veterans or their families knew exactly what the process was.
Mr Evans might have some information for you, Senator.
Tim Evans, Assistant Secretary, Commemorations. Senator, yes, my understanding is that all of the families that were named in your letter had either been contacted already or were then contacted when we compared your letter with the existing list and that follow-up occurred. So my understanding is that all of the people you named now have or already had the information about the process that they needed to undertake. I think in a couple of instances the veterans were veterans of the British Armed Forces now living in Australia, and in those cases we advised them of the direction they needed to follow, which was to gain the verification of service from the British High Commission.
Well, Mr Evans, can I just extend to you my thanks for your effort and the department's effort in regards to that. I'm most appreciative, as I'm sure the families are. In the same letter of the 12th of January, it says, I'm quoting from the letter now, the French Embassy is currently working through over 180 applications so far. Is that 180 applications that have come to light as a result of the commentary around the British Prime Minister's visit, or that's 180 180 applications that have been that are known that perhaps were initiated before that media commentary?
Senator, I'd say it would be a combination of both sources. The Department of Veterans Affairs assisted the French Embassy by putting an article in its newspaper Vet Affairs, which alerted the veteran community to the French government's intent. I think that the award ceremonies themselves, and I believe we're now up to 4, have also had a ripple effect through the veteran community. And then there was the publicity around the announcements that were made during the state visits at the time of the G20.
Mr Evans, can you just identify where those 4 ceremonies have been and how many recipients were involved in each of them?
The 4 ceremonies have been at Albany, Sydney, Adelaide and Melbourne. There were 2...
Three.
I beg your pardon, yes, 3 at Albany, 2...
Senator Back and I know all of them, or each 3, and they're very worthy recipients?
2 in Adelaide, 4 in Sydney
And there were 5 today, although unfortunately one veteran had injured himself and was unable to attend the ceremony today, so 4 were presented today.
Chair, Major General Mark Kelly, Repatriation Commission, just to explain to Senator Smith as well, coinciding with the 70th anniversary of D-Day last year, where the 8 veterans that were identified to travel back to France to participate, the French government commenced the actual process for awards for those veterans that were going to be in Normandy at that time, and they were presented in Caen on the first day of our commemorative mission there. Coinciding with that, I was asked by the Defence Attaché here at the French Embassy in Canberra, rather than giving the personal details, which we cannot do to veterans, to a foreign government, we took it upon ourselves to assist them by writing to over 125 veterans that we had records who had served in France during that year of 1944, saying that they were being considered for the award of the Legion of Honour. So the department, I personally signed over 125 letters to those veterans, hence the number of applications that came back through the French Embassy. It also went and encouraged them for friends that they knew who had also served in their squadrons that may be eligible to contact the French Embassy. Hence the Embassy being overwhelmed with over 180, as you've mentioned, applications going in seeking that award. So they were actually overwhelmed, and the process then goes back to their Honours Secretariat in Paris, a bit like our own Honours Secretariat here at Government House, and they then confirm the details of those veterans' service. So in fact, they were overwhelmed by the number of applications that came, and one of the gentlemen, Tom Lofthouse from Bunbury, who received the award, great character, he was actually selected for that mission, so his process had been done in time for the June mission to France. However, Tom had clots in his lung and legs and was unable, through medical advice, to travel. So that one was already done. And then for Eric and Murray Maxton, who were great farming folk from down Albany Way, they were the two brothers that also received theirs at the Albany. Theirs was one of the first applications that were processed after those letters went out from me as early as May last year.
Thank you.
Can I
Sorry.
acknowledge your keen interest in this, Senator? And you and I and Senator Back were indeed at Albany when this presentation was made. It was a marvellous afternoon. I met with the French ambassador in Canberra last week to talk about this specific issue. And I think it would be unfortunate if the Australian community was in any doubt how important the French people view the presentation of these Legions of Honour, both in the context of the Second World War, the contribution of Australians, and the First World War. The French have never forgotten. And while these are, of course, awards around the Second World War, it is, I think, indicative of the service and sacrifice of so many Australians in Europe and in France and Belgium in particular in the First World War. And the French view this matter very, very seriously. It is their highest award. And the ambassador and the President and the French people are determined to ensure that those who can receive it do receive it and will receive it, and we are working very closely. And it's of great assistance, I've got to say, when honourable senators and members such as yourself contribute to that process, and I would encourage everyone to do so, just through newsletters and other forms of communication, because they're not posthumous, these are old men, and I think it would be fantastic if we could get the Legion of Honour to them before they pass away.
Well, thank you, Minister. Just one last comment, Chair, if I may. Well, just in conclusion, I have high hopes for those other Albany and Great Southern residents that have made application. But again, can I just extend my appreciation, I'm sure the appreciation of the family members of veterans as well, for the cooperation of the Department of Veterans Affairs and, of course, the generosity of the French government.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Senator Smith. Senator Fawcett.